Welcome back. In this episode of my New Zealand South Island road trip, I'll be showing you a few things that you can do around Dunedin before taking you somewhere that genuinely feels like paradise. Only 3% of visitors are international tourists, and we'll be heading over to Stewart Island, otherwise known as Rakiura in Maori, to show you what it's all about and, of course, to go in search for a kiwi. Our first day in Dunedin was spent exploring the Otago Peninsula, somewhere well known for its dramatic coastline, plenty of wildlife, and of course, an unexpected castle.
Larnach Castle is New Zealand's only castle built in the late 1800s by William Larnach. It's perched right on the Otago Peninsula with views across the harbour. The interiors are interesting, but for me, the highlight was definitely the gardens. They're beautifully kept and surprisingly peaceful. We also stopped at the tea rooms, which felt like a really nice break in the day. Of course, we had coffee and the lamb pie was really nice. From there, we headed out on a boat trip, hoping to spot royal albatross. We didn't have much luck with the birds that day, but we were rewarded with something just as special, including this tiny baby fur seal.
Later, we visited a local eco-reserve, the Opera, which turned out to be one of the most unexpectedly interesting experiences of the day. As well as penguins and seals, we also learnt about the conservation work happening in the area and why this coastline is so important to Māori culture. It felt genuinely educational rather than touristy and gave a lot of context to the wildlife we'd already been seeing. Dunedin itself really surprised me. It has a vibrant student feel, but it also has plenty of nature and wonderful architecture so that it never feels overwhelming. We did have our only bad meal of the entire trip here. It was at a chain restaurant and perhaps we set our expectations too high, but we were really tired and just wanted to grab something quick and simple to eat. We did, however, have a couple of really good breakfasts there. On one morning, we went to Commons Eatery, and another morning we went to Buster Green's. There was something unexpectedly spicy in my breakfast in Buster Green's, but the coffee was definitely one of the best of the trip. We stayed at Bluestone on George, a gorgeous motel that I would highly recommend. It's fairly centrally located, about a 15 to 20 minute walk from the main city centre. It has everything you need after 2 long days exploring, including washing facilities, a fully equipped kitchen, and of course free parking, which is great. It cost us $496 for both nights, which I thought was a very reasonable price considering everything you got, the washing facilities, the size and comfort of the room, and the free parking.
One of Dunedin's most famous sites is Baldwin Street, officially the steepest residential street in the world, and has some great views at the top. It's definitely a fun experience, and it's impressive seeing it in real life, but if you're short on time, it's probably one you could skip in favour of somewhere else.
There were a few places that we didn't have time to visit, including the beautiful Tunnel Beach, somewhere that had come highly recommended, but unfortunately, during the time of our visit, it was closed for repair following landslides and unstable ground. Somewhere else that we wanted to visit was the Tahura Otago Museum, and we just didn't have enough time to put aside to really do it justice. It's New Zealand's largest science centre. It has planetarium, it's like a natural history museum, and it's also a bicultural experience, taking on board a lot of the Māori culture and stories from the Otago region. We love escape rooms, and Dunedin looks to have a really great and highly recommended escape room called Escape from Dunedin Prison, which makes it extra quirky. However, the weather was actually pretty good during our visit, and we think it's probably something to put aside for a rainy day. So although we didn't get a chance to do it this time, when we return to New Zealand, we'll put it on our list for a rainy day activity. Probably one of my biggest regrets is not seeing the Botanic Gardens in the daylight. It was dusk during our visit, so it was very low light. However, what we did see looked stunning, very well kept, and gave us a great perspective on the city below. I would absolutely love to return and explore the gardens properly during the daylight.
We also made a quick stop at Clair Beach. It's a really pretty stretch of coastline, but it was busy when we visited and there wasn't much open at the time. I can imagine it's a really popular spot with locals, especially on a sunny day.
Nugget Point was one of the standout stops of this whole section of the trip. The walk itself is absolutely worth doing, some of the best coastal views we saw anywhere in New Zealand. Even the drive up is incredible, with loads of viewpoints where you'll want to keep pulling over and taking photos. Another walk I'd highly recommend is McLean Falls. As you walk through the forest, the temperature drops and everything feels damp and mossy. It's almost eerie in the best way. And then you reach the waterfalls themselves, which are just magnificent. I still can't get over how many incredible waterfalls in New Zealand are just a short walk from the road. That evening, we arrived in Bluff, where we'd be spending the night. There isn't a huge amount to do here or many places to eat, so we picked up some picnic bits, took a walk and explored the area. We even stumbled across an old bunker before catching the sunset. The view from our room later that evening, looking out over the Foveaux Strait, was incredible, and it really felt like the calm before the next part of the adventure. We stayed in the Land's End Boutique Hotel, which was a fairly basic accommodation, but the host was very friendly and it was in a great location to catch the ferry the next morning. When we arrived on Stewart Island, we were absolutely buzzing. We had booked an afternoon tour over to Over Island, which is known for its wildlife, and we had an evening tour booked to go Kiwi spotting. One thing you should know before booking your trip to Stewart Island is that you can't take your car there, and you also can't take large luggage. So we just took our backpacks, and it just honestly made things feel a lot simpler and slower. When we went to check in for our Over Island afternoon tour, unfortunately, it had been cancelled due to bad weather and rough seas. So of course, we were feeling a little bit disappointed, but we decided to not feel too sorry for ourselves and take on an activity that we had planned to do on our second day on Stewart Island, which is hiring some e-bikes. Stewart Island is huge, but only a tiny part of it is accessible by road, and we managed to cover most of that by bike. What we didn't expect was just how much fun it would be. Quiet roads, open views across the bay, and hardly anyone else around. It felt like we had the place to ourselves. We stayed in the Bay Motel, which was a good size and clean. Once again, it had a kitchenette, so perfect considering the lack of dine-out options in Oban. There is a convenience store that sells everything you need, just a short walk away. One of the highlights was walking up to Observation Rock, and honestly, this was the moment it really started to feel like paradise. After a few hours exploring, we returned the bikes and headed back into Oban, hoping that our evening Kiwi spotting tour would still be going ahead. That evening, we headed back out onto the water for our Kiwi spotting tour. The seas were pretty rough. The Foveaux Strait is known as one of the most dangerous stretches of water in the world, and even this crossing made us very aware of just how wild it can be. On board, the guides shared loads of information about Stewart Island's unique ecosystem and why it's such an important place for Kiwi conservation. And then Completely unexpectedly, we had the most incredible albatross experience. 3 of them hovered right over our heads, gliding effortlessly in the wind. When we were back on land, we headed out onto the Kiwi Trail. We followed the group quietly through the darkness until a red light came on, a sign that someone had spotted movement. And then, there it was. Seeing a kiwi in the wild was something I never expected to experience. We actually got to see 2 kiwis this evening, which is incredibly rare, and often the expert guides can go a whole tour without a sighting. It was only a few seconds, but it's a moment I'll never forget. Stewart Island absolutely exceeded every expectation I had. We did go at the end of the off season, so there wasn't a lot open, but that's okay. It just gave us the opportunity to just take things at a really slow pace and enjoy the scenery. Real NZ, the tour operator, also refunded us for our cancelled tour as we were only there for 1 night and couldn't reschedule. And they were also happy for us to change our return crossing back over to Bluff to the first crossing of the day. The decision to get the earlier ferry was definitely the right call. The weather was meant to be picking up and getting quite a lot worse in the afternoon, and we really didn't want to be stranded on Stewart Island and miss our Milford Sound tour in a couple of days. Even taking the earlier ferry, the crossing back was pretty rough. We could see the sea out of the left window and the sky out of the right window, and there were waves just rolling over the top of the ferry. I thought it was quite fun, but I don't think my hubby did. And honestly, as so few international travellers get to see Stewart Island, I really do think that it feels like one of New Zealand's best kept secrets. If you haven't seen them already, Episode 1 will take you on the start of our journey as we arrive in Christchurch and show you all the wonderful things there are to do around the city. Episode 2 is the first leg of our road trip, leaving Christchurch, taking you down to Lake Tekapo and all the amazing stop-offs that we've done en route down to Dunedin. The next episode, I'll be taking you down to Teanau and the most magical day trip to Milford Sound. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on our next episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.